All right, now we are recording. Okay, thank you, Sydney. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the vegetation or biomes that we find in Canada. So the vegetation, this kind of talks about the soil quality that we would find, and we will kind of analyze that in a little bit here. If we start up north and we'll work our way south, of course, this is like Northwest Territories and stuff. It's quite cold up there. I've never been personally, but I will trust people who live up there. Okay, this northern part region is considered the tundra. Okay, yeah, tundra is really cold, so where like polar bears live. There will be very minimal amounts of vegetation here because it is frozen for the majority of the year. As we work south, and we're starting to get into kind of like the green regions, all of these shades of green here are going to be considered the taiga biome. Okay, so the taiga biome is quite large in Canada. It is the largest biome in Canada. Okay, if we jump over to BC here, we have a deciduous forest biome there. Okay, so deciduous leaves will shed their leaves in the winter, okay, to preserve their energy for life essential processes. Now in southern Alberta, where I am right now in Lethbridge, and I'm pretty sure where you guys are, it would be considered the grassland as well. Okay, that has very fertile soil. That's why we have a lot of farms in that particular region. And yeah, so we have a few different biomes in Canada as well. Okay, and again, this is going to be dependent on like the elevation of the region and its proximity, its altitude. How close is it to the poles / how far is it away from the equator? All right, so we'll talk about the tundra first. So the tundra, this is the like most northern parts of the earth. Okay, so like the gulags in the Soviet Union, they would get sent to the tundra. Northwest Territories, Northern Canada, this is the tundra. Okay, so you guys will need to know like these facts about each different biomes. Okay, these are going to be found on the final. Okay, so in the tundra, winters are long. They can last 6 to 9 months, so half to 3/4 of the year. Temperatures can reach minus 40 degrees Celsius. Summers are short and cool. In those summer months, only the top few centimeters of the soil thaws because it's very frozen, right? Frozen thick. Whoever's making annotations on here, I like them, but please stop. Okay. So the majority of the soil has permafrost, and this will prevent the plants from forming deep roots. Okay, so there's not a lot of vegetation in this part of the earth. Is what we're actually experiencing in like northern Asia, like kind of in Russia and stuff like that. A lot of the permafrost is actually melting, and they're discovering some pretty interesting stuff in that permafrost. For one, it's actually releasing a lot of carbon dioxide because as water freezes, it's able to kind of lock in some of the carbon dioxide that is found in the atmosphere, so that as that melts, more carbon dioxide is being released. So that's not good. And they're also finding some like pretty dangerous pathogens in the thawing permafrost. And because our immune systems have spent so long without trying to like battle with those pathogens in the permafrost, those could potentially be dangerous for us. In the tundra, there's a short growing season because it is so cold for so long. And the majority of the plant's photosynthetic activity will occur in the summer, and enough of the food supply will be stored for winter. for the plant. Okay, but again, there's very little vegetation up here. And Eskimos and Inuit people who live up north, their diets are pretty reliant on like high fat, high meat content, right? They eat a lot of like seals and seal blubber and stuff like that. Yeah, so they don't eat a lot of vegetables. Okay, so next, this is the taiga. So if the tundra was the northernmost part and really frozen, the next level down is going to be the taiga. So we're getting a little bit closer to the equator here. Just gonna get rid of our annotated notes here. Okay. So the taiga, this is the largest biome found in Canada. The winters are long and cold. Okay, we know this. In the winter, the shade of the trees will prevent the snow from melting. Okay. Many animals will survive the long winters by hibernating or migrating. So hibernating would be a great example of a physiological adaptation to survive that climate. And some animals will migrate, like birds, and that is a great example of a behavioral adaptation. Okay, so as I mentioned, this is Canada's largest biome, and in the summer months, the ground will thaw completely. Okay, next we have a deciduous forest. So these are quite nice, especially in like the fall months when the leaves start turning color. This is a nice little transition. So if we look in the top right corner of your screen, this is like a summer in a deciduous forest. We move down, this is like fall or autumn. And then if we look at the image on the left, this is winter. Okay, deciduous plants, deciduous trees will shed their leaves in the winter because they want to kind of keep all of their energy in for themselves. So like the stem and the roots will not die. Okay, so they that would be another example of a behavioral a physiological adaptation. Okay, the plants are going to lose their leaves so they can conserve their energy. And also in the really cold months, there's not a whole lot of like extra energy, right? Like when it's warm out in the summer, it's super warm. We like being outside. So those are ideal growing conditions for plants. When it's below freezing, plants don't really like those types of growing conditions. So deciduous forests, these will have 4 distinct seasons. Droughts are uncommon, so they get lots of precipitation here. In the winter, snow can be heavy and wet, and it will melt quickly in the spring. The ground will also completely thaw. And we have a kind of quite a variable temperature range. So it can go from below 0 in the winter to above 30 degrees in the summer. Okay, so animals have to be able to deal with that extreme temperature change, right? 30 degrees is quite a lot. The tallest trees will form a canopy. So if you're going on a walk in a deciduous forest on a really sunny day, not a lot of sunlight is going to be in there. And that's because the trees are growing and they want to absorb the most amount of sunlight, right? They're competing with the other trees nearby to acquire maximum amount of sunlight so they can maximize photosynthesis and then grow and reproduce, right? So this is a deciduous forest. Some areas of BC will find this. Calgary, Alberta is actually considered to be a deciduous forest biome, okay? A lot of deciduous forests are kind of like found along the banks of rivers because it needs that. It needs the moisture to be able to grow, right? All right. So grasslands, this may look a little bit more familiar for us. Okay, we have quite a vast range of grasslands here in southern Alberta. And this is quite evident if you drive across, if you go to Saskatchewan and Manitoba, we have lots and lots and lots of grasslands. So this is a prolonged dry season here. Typically it doesn't rain or snow too much. Lack of rain will prevent forests from forming. So trees and plants cannot get really large because there's not as much water nearby. Some groups of trees can be found by rivers. Again, just kind of, this is not unique to grasslands, okay? This is kind of common throughout Earth, is that trees are just generally going to be found by rivers, again, because that's just a really readily available source of water for them. And lastly, the soil is rich and fertile in this biome. Okay, that's why we farm on our grasslands. Okay, grasslands are not unique to southern Alberta. Okay, there are grasslands in the Sahara Desert and stuff like that. Okay, so we're getting there. We only have 2 to go. So this is the desert biome. I feel like we all probably are pretty familiar with the desert biome, right? It is very dry. The soil retains little or no moisture, and the rate of evaporations exceed the rate of precipitation, right? So animals who live in this type of biome, they need to have behavioral adaptations, physiological adaptations, and what was the last one? Behavioral, physiological, and structural adaptations to allow them to survive in this climate. So a behavioral adaptation. So let's start at the bottom left part of our screen here. So this is a desert beetle, and it's what this desert beetle does to get water. So it's able, excuse me. So it's able to actually extract water from the atmosphere. So this beetle will stand on its front legs and put its hind legs up into the air, and there is moisture or humidity or water in the air, right? So as this beetle stands there for a prolonged length of time, eventually that moisture from the air is going to collect on its legs and drip down, and then that beetle will be able to drink that water. Pretty interesting. That is an excellent example of a behavioral adaptation. Okay, so it's just going to collect the water from the air. I thought that was absolutely amazing the first time that I heard about that. And that kind of technology is actually being used to provide clean drinking water for those people who live in areas of the world where they do not have access to clean drinking water. Okay, so they have machines, and I watched this on a series of Netflix. I forget the name of it, but anyways, they have a machine and it has a fan where it actually draws in the air, like just regular plain old air, and it extracts the water from that air, and then it is able to provide a clean drinking source of water for people who need it. Okay, so that was a good example of a behavioral adaptation. A structural adaptation. So we look up here, this is a desert cat. Yes, they actually exist. And one thing I want you guys to look at in particular is the long, big ears, right? So they're big, high surface area, and this is so they're able to release heat. So they are not going to overheat in the desert. Okay, so that is a structural adaptation. And then a physiological adaptation here, a snake. This is a cold-blooded animal. Okay, so for it to acquire energy, it needs to kind of like bake in the sun for it to warm up so it's able to move around, right? I know in Lethbridge, there's one road where they have a warning. It says caution rattlesnakes crossing, because rattlesnakes, they're snakes or reptiles, right? Cold-blooded animals. they will bake in the sun just sitting on the road, right? So they can increase their body temperature so they're able to kind of move around and go hunt. Okay, the last biome we're going to talk about today is the tropical rainforest. This is probably my favorite biome. Here's Mr. Jones. This image on the left here is in Vietnam. This place is called Elephant Falls, and this waterfall is absolutely huge. I had to cut off this photo because it wasn't big enough. The photo itself wasn't big enough, but this waterfall probably is about 200 meters across. It's huge. It is super cool. And yeah, so there's going to be lots of rain, lots of waterfalls, lots of rivers in rainforests. The image on the right here, I am in Vietnam here. And again, it's a rainforest, very humid, very warm, lots of water, lots of oceans. It's excellent. Go see the world. If it's one thing you do with your life, go see the world. Here are a couple other images. So this image, these are from my camera reel. So this image on the left here, this is in Indonesia, another tropical rainforest region. This was a really cool waterfall because you don't even really see where the water is falling from. It looks like it's just kind of falling out of the plants. It looks like a live plant wall. It was really cool. At the University of Lethbridge, they used to have like a live wall, and they had like ferns and other types of plants kind of like hanging from it. It was really neat. And then this image on the right here, this is in Hawaii. There is a hike. It's called Stairway to Heaven. And that is literally the entire hike is just a stairway. The top of the mountain is quite high. And when I got up to the top, it was very foggy. So I actually wasn't able to see or enjoy the scenery up at the top. But I like tropical rainforest. These were just a few images from my camera that I thought I should share with you guys because they're kind of related, right? So anyways, back to the information side of tropical rainforest. So typically the soil is poor in nutrients because that particular biome gets a lot of water, a lot of rain, a lot of precipitation, and the rain will wash most of the nutrients away. Trees will form a canopy. So just kind of like our deciduous forest, if you're walking underneath a rainforest, you're probably not going to have any sun reaching you. Okay, and only 2% of the sun will reach the soil there. Okay, so that is our lesson on biomes.